Hi, my name's Nate and I'm from EPT. Today I want to work with Tina on an issue that she's been complaining about for some time is that she was referred to me through a doctor who came with an MRI for the reasons of an impingement through her hip flexor and also through the sacroiliac joint. And so she came to me with an issue of gluteal tendonitis as well. So what we're going to do today is I want to be able to show you some things to be able to alleviate that and also strengthen it. Now, I must mention first, the reason why Tina came to me originally was because she was referred by a doctor, and then I was able to bring her to my in-house osteopath, who was not only able to give a more specific diagnosis for us to be able to work with her, but also work in tandem with us, so that way we can strengthen the joint, but also alleviate the pain and improve her posture and her biomechanics over the time that we spent together. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to show you a mobilization so you can be able to mobilize the joints. I'm going to show you 3 stretches that you're going to be able to do to also stretch the muscles that are tight. And then we're going to go into stability work. And then, of course, for those people who want to take it to the next level, we're going to go through some phase 2 exercises so that way we get her back to what she likes to do, and that is hiking. So let's begin. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to go through a mobilization exercise to start with. And this is just going to mobilize her spine. So the issue with the issue with what was going on with Tina was that she was also very, very tight through her spine and also through her joints through the spine from the pelvis through to the head. So when we did a postural assessment, we were able to find that we needed to be able to get these joints moving before we started working out. So what I'm going to show you is an upper body and a lower body mobilization that will activate and also loosen each of the joint from her head all the way down to her pelvis. So take your hands across your chest. And then what I'd like you to do is just rock your shoulders from side to side and move your knees to the opposite side. And then go to the other side. Good. And I want you to inhale as you come back and exhale as you go over. And so the issue is with this is making sure that you are breathing throughout the movement. So you exhale as you go to the side, and then you inhale back to the middle, and then you exhale as you go to the other side. And what that also does is allows us to be able to get more flexibility and more mobility through each joint. But because she's also moving as well, we also start to pump fluid into the spine. Okay, and relax. So the next one, what I'm going to show you is some stretches so that way to alleviate some of the pain in her body and also correct her posture as well. Now the first one I'm going to show you is a hip flexor stretch or a lunge stretch. So drop forward into a lunge. Great. Okay, all the way down to the floor. So when we did the tests, we actually found one side tighter than the other. And so what you'll do in this is you'll actually stretch one side more than the other, so that way we rebalance the body up. If you stretch one side and then the other side and leave it at that, all you're going to do is you're going to stretch the tight side, but the weakest, the longer side, you're just going to stretch that even more. So what we're trying to do is bring them both together. So in this, what I'd like you to do is make sure that you do the side that feels the tightest twice. And so to show you how to do this, all she's going to do is, Tina, I want you to tuck your pelvis underneath there. She's going to push her hips forward until she starts to feel the stretch down her hip flexor here. You'll raise the hand up towards the sky, other hand. All right, and then you'll tilt it over to the right-hand side. And that's it. And so what we're doing is we're stretching the hip flexor, which attaches to the inside of her thigh, and then also wraps to L5 and L1 in her back here. So that's why I get you to tuck it underneath, so that way you'll be able to feel that stretch. Now you'll hold that stretch for anywhere between 30 and 45 seconds, and then you'll change to the other side. So I'll get you to change over. All right, and she tucks as she goes under. Yep, and then she pushes her hips forward, and then she reaches over. There's 3 stages to the stretch here. And like I said, because she's tighter on the left-hand side than the right-hand side, we're going to do the left-hand side one more time. And so I'll get you to swap back. Okay, tuck, push it forward, that's it. And then, that's beautiful, okay, to hold that. All right, so the next one I'm going to show you is a 90-90 stretch. So we're going to have Tina go down to a 90-90 position. She's done this before, so she knows this very well. She's going to bring this leg out to there, and then she's also going to bring this leg out to the side. Okay, and why it's called a 90-90 is because you're going to get a 90 angle in the knee here, a 90 angle in the hips, and then of course a 90-90 in the back here as well. The key for here is we want to be able to stretch that left glute. So when we did the tests on Tina, we found that the glutes and the hip was tight, so we need to be able to mobilize that as well. So she's going to go into this position here, and she's going to hit it on 3 angles. So first she's going to go straight over the knee, and then she comes up, and then she goes over the shin, meanwhile still trying to keep that back nice and straight, and then she comes up, and then she goes over the toe. Okay, now come up and then change the other one. So like I said, what she'll do is go, first thing she'll go straight over the knee, making sure that that back stays nice and straight. It's really key that many people when they do this is that they start to roll the shoulders forward, and then that's when you'll lose the stretch through the glutes. So making sure the back is nice and straight. All right, now go over the shin. Now you'll notice as you go further down towards your toe, it's not as easy, right? So it's not as flexible. So only go to where you can still keep that back nice and straight. Okay, now the next one we're going to show, and like I said, now same deal again, she's actually tighter through the left-hand side than the right, so we're going to do that left-hand side one more time. And just for the sake of speed, I'm just going to take you over to the knee first, great, and then over the shin, and then over the toe. And that's really just to give you a heads up that if you find one side are tighter than the other, then make sure you do the tight side twice. All right, so the next one we're going to show is an oblique stretch. Now, same thing again, when you're walking, if you're out of alignment, as in you're tighter on one side than the other, then what you need to do is you need to balance both sides up. So I'm going to get her to lie over the ball, an oblique stretch, so lying sideways over it, that's it, placing your right leg forward and left leg back, good. Now grab hold of this left hand wrist and then stretch over the ball. Okay, that's it, good. Now grab hold of this wrist and then just stretch your arms up over the head. There you go, and just pull that down. Good, grab hold of this wrist here. Good. All right, so the whole idea here is we want to be able to open up these obliques. Okay, now you'll find one side might tighter than the other. So we're going to do this side twice, and we're going to do the other side once, because when we did the test, we found this side much more tighter than the other side. You can also play with this a little bit as well, where you can actually roll the hip forward a little bit, and you might find a little bit more tension going through your internal obliques here, because the obliques run like a crisscross, and it's like a sling. Or you might like to open it up this way, and you might find it a little bit tighter going this way. Okay? All right, so I'll get you to swap to the other side. Now place that left leg forward. Okay, and then reach over the top and grab hold of your right wrist. That's it. Good. Now what you can also do is you can bend this knee a little bit more and just bring it up here, and you'll find that you'll be able to turn the foot underneath, so you grip the floor with the foot. Yep. You'll find that that will actually keep you balanced there too. Okay, so if you feel like you're falling off the ball, put that left foot forward, and then you'll find that you'll be more balanced. And same deal again. Open the hip up, try to see if that's tighter, or close the hip over and see what side that feels tighter. Okay. Now, just for the sake of the video today, I just want to make sure that we're doing both. We're doing that second side. So let's go back to the other side again. And like I said, we're going to find that balance. Okay, right leg forward. Yep, left leg back. Good, stretch up over. Yep, grab hold of that wrist. Now, if you want to increase the stretch, you can even straighten the arms a little bit as well. Okay, and then you just feel you can even go over the ball a little bit more, and then you'll find that that side will open up a little bit more. Okay? All right, so now we're going to go into the stability work. So, when we did the test on Tina, we found that her spine was weak, and she was unstable through her spine and her pelvis. So the first exercise we're going to do is the horse stance. So I'll get you onto your hands and knees. That's beautiful. Okay. Now, for the sake of making sure that she has correct posture, you want to make sure that that hip is over the knee and the wrist is right underneath the shoulder there. Okay. Now, I like to use a stick because it allows her to get some feedback on where she needs to place her back. And so the points that she needs to touch is her head, the shoulder blades, and her bum. Now, we want to be able to get a neutral spine. And so as what we do is we get her to put her hand behind her lower back, feel the distance between her lower back and the pole, and it's up to the knuckle. Now the great thing about the body, it's all symmetrical. So we know that the distance between her lower back and the pole should be up to the knuckle in her hands. Now the other one that she should also do is actually put her hand behind her neck there, and it should meet up to the meaty part of her hand. So if she finds that her head is dropping, or her neck is dropping, then she needs to just tuck her chin and bring it up to that point there. All right, place your hands on the floor. Great. Now the next part to it is we want to make it hard as well. So I want you to bend your elbows a little bit. Yep, keep bending them, keep bending them, keep bending them. Good. Now turn them to the back of the room. Good. All right, so now what we do is we have the pole parallel with the floor. Now the key here is to make sure that the pole stays on her back the whole time. And then what I'm going to get Tina to do is I want to get her just to lift her left hand off the floor and her right knee off the floor, like an inch, like as if you could just place a small piece of paper underneath or a small book, and then she'll hold that. Now you'll notice she may even go back with her hips here, and all I'm going to get her to do is just migrate her hips forward a little bit, and that becomes even more unstable. Now what this is doing is it's actually strengthening her spine, the multifidus muscles in her spine, and also it teaches her the gait. Now the gait is the walk. Okay, and now I'm going to change the other side, and I'm going to get a hold of her around 3 seconds each time, and then she'll change from one to the other. You notice I'm not holding the pole. The key is for her to be able to hold that pole as still as she can, which creates stability in the joints. Great. All right, so the next one we're going to do the supine hip extension. So the next one we're going to do is a supine hip extension with a rubber band. Okay, so put it in. Awesome. So what you'll do is with a rubber band, the idea is to be able to work through her glute medius, okay? But also we're going to train that squat pattern too. So I'm going to get you to lie down on your back, coming all the way down. So put the ball around about on her shoulders. So lift up, lying back on the ball. Good. Put your hands down the side. Good. Head on the ball. Good. Now the key here as well is to make sure that her ankles are right over the top of her knees, okay? Making sure that the position, the widest part of the ball is where her shoulders are, and making sure that her head is still touching the ball. Now, if you're finding that your head is off the ball, place the tongue against the roof of your mouth, and that will also secure the neck, okay? Now, I'll get you to move down just a little bit more for me. Good. Yep, squeeze it up. Good. Now, the range of motion for this is that we're going to get her to drop her hips down towards the floor, meanwhile keeping the ball nice and still. And then you're lifting back up to the top. And then at the top, she squeezes her butt cheeks as hard as she can. However, she doesn't go into a hyperflexion or hyperextension, so she's not raising the hips any higher than her shoulders and her knees. Okay, that's crucial because otherwise you'll put pressure on her lower back. And then you're going to hold that for around 10 seconds with a 2-second breather in between. And you're going to do this for around 12 to 13 repetitions. Okay, the idea is to be able to create stability. And with stability, stabilizes the joint, okay? And that's what we're working for first. Okay. Next one we're going to do is a lower abdominal exercise. Now, critical to be able to get her to stabilize the pelvis, we want to be able to fire her lower abdominals meanwhile walking, okay? So what I use is a biofeedback mechanism. Now, this is a blood pressure cuff, but it's got a longer tube. So if you want to use a blood pressure cuff, just making sure it's long enough for you. Or you can use a towel or you can use your hand. But I find the most effective way to be able to engage your lower abdominals and be accurate is using one of these. So what you do is you place it on the lower back, lying down on your back. Good, bending your knees. Okay. Okay. And so for those who have done Pilates before, you'll know that what we want to do is put that back in a neutral position first. So what I'll get her to do first is just arch her back up off the floor, flatten the back against the floor, and then I ask her to find that middle part for you. Or you can place your hands on your pelvis, and as soon as that arrow points straight ahead, you know it's neutral. All right, so the next thing you do is going to pump it up until you start to feel some pressure. Okay, and then you add 30 more. Okay, and now what you're going to do is take that out of your hand, and I want you to draw your navel in toward your spine because that's going to activate her transverse abdominis, which is the stabilizer of her of the lower back. And then what I'm going to get her to do is pull her belly button up towards her rib cage, flatten her back against that cuff, and then add 30 to that. Sorry, using your lower abs to add the 30. Okay. Great. All right, now hold it there. Okay, that's your first exercise you're going to do. I want you to be able to stabilize this first. No need to lift the leg. Now, once you've mastered this, then what you're going to do is keep the dial where it is. And then she's going to lift one leg up off the floor. Keep the dial where it's supposed to be. And then hold it there. And now place the leg back down on the floor. Great. And then change legs. Now, if you find that the dial goes up when you lift the leg, you're going to have to arch your back a little bit off the floor. And if you find that the dial drops a lot when you drop the leg down towards the floor, we've got a switching problem going on. So you need to really focus on being able to get those lower abdominals functioning first. So that's when we do that first exercise first. And you're going to perform these anywhere between 24 and 26 times. Okay? Great. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go into 3 strengthening exercises, so that way we're going to be able to stabilize her hips and also making sure that we're going towards getting her back on the heels again. All right, so can you stand up? Okay. Okay, so the first exercise we're going to get her to do is a back lunge, okay? Now, the critical thing about doing a back lunge is that we want to make sure that we're hitting all of those points when she does a lunge. So the first one she's going to do, and the things that I would be looking for, so that way you're being aware, is when you do a step back, do a lunge, pause, okay? Now, I want to make sure that this knee is over the ankle, okay? So go back a little bit, yep, good. And you know what, you can even drop to the ground just to measure yourself up. So that's your end point, making sure the knee is over the ankle. And then she'll come up, step forward with this leg. Good, and then step back the other leg. Yep, good. All right, that's the first one you want to be aware of, making sure that that knee stays over the ankle, not over the toe, but over the ankle, okay? And pause. All right, now go front on so we see the front on. All right, step back. Okay, so the next part you want to look at is you want to make sure that the knee is going in a second and third toe. If that knee is turning in, this glute, which we're trying to strengthen, is not going to fire as well as it could be if you don't keep that knee over the second and third toe. Step forward. Good, other leg back. And so you'll notice that one may be able to stay in, one may not be able to stay in. So you've got to make sure that as you're performing these, you're making sure it goes over the second and third toe. Also notice her posture as well. She's up nice and tall, and she's also drawing that in, which is with the exercise we were learning in the transverse abdominal, when we were using the lower abdominals to be able to do it. Okay? Great. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is a supine hip extension with a flexion. It's going to fire her glutes as well as her hamstrings together. I'll get you to lie on your back. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go through the supine hip extension and flexion exercise. Now, the key with this is making sure that her hips stay up as she curls her feet in towards her butt. This is going to fire her hamstrings and also fire her glutes at the same time. When we did her testing at the beginning, she had weak hamstrings, weak glutes in coordination with the hamstrings, and now we're going to put an exercise together so that way we get them both firing. Okay, feet on top of the ball. Good, hands out to the side. Good. Now making sure that she has her hands out to the side will allow her to keep stability. You can move this ball closer to you, or you can move it further away from you, so that way you can create, making it easier or make it harder. So if you want to make it harder, you just push it further away. All right, so the next one I want you to just lift your bum up off the floor. Okay, that's a hip extension. And you notice she's a little bit wobbly there, which is great, because then that's creating stability. Every time we create instability, the body has to be stable. And if we're doing it in a safe environment, then you're not going to hurt, you're not going to hurt yourself either. All right, so the next one you're going to do is hold this position here, and as she draws her feet towards her bum, she's going to drive her hips up towards the sky. So she curls that in. Great, that's perfect. Okay, and then take it back out again. Good. It looks easy, but it's not as easy as you think. All right, now curl it back in again as you curl in. So that way we're firing the glutes and also the hamstrings at the same time. Notice her hands are up as well. And take it out, because that also squeezes her shoulder blades together to work on the posture. It works on the posture of the person as well. All right, drop your hips down towards the floor. Okay, so the last one we're going to do is a single leg deadlift. Now, The reason why we're going to do a single leg deadlift is because every time you stand on one foot, that sacroiliac joint, the muscles all around the hips start to get fixed. So anything doing one-legged allows her to be able to work through all of those muscles around her hip joint, which is what we're trying to strengthen. So what she's going to do, you can use a pole. I prefer to use a pole first and then get that balance first. Otherwise, you could start adding some weight. But critical here is to make sure that the spine is nice and straight, as well as the knee is bent as she goes forward. So, like I said, like the other exercises, it's not as easy as it looks. So let's see how Tina goes. So Tina's going to spin forward. She keeps the back nice and straight. Good. Goes to that point, and then she comes back up. Brilliant. You made that look easy, Tina. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is make sure is keep drawing that navel in towards your spine. Do that again. So like I said, because she's standing on one leg, that joint is like really solid now. And then because we're working through that deadlift pattern, all of those muscles through her glute, also through her spine, are also starting to function. Okay, one more. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, so they are the mobilizations, the stretches, the stability exercises, as well as the strengthening exercises that you want to go through to be able to strengthen that hip joint. Especially if you suffer from any impingement through your hips, you might get achy through your hips, or you may even have like a piriformis syndrome. That's also a benefit from these mobilizations and stretches and stability, as well as strengthening work. So thank you very much for watching today. If you really liked our videos, please subscribe. And we'll also put another link to a video similar in the caption above.